Hello, I'm Ryan McEachran, and welcome to episode 41 of The Dig. On this week's show, we have Don Duval, CEO of Norcat, to discuss their business model and how they can help suppliers get in front of mining companies. And we'll finish things off with 6 and 60. All this coming up right now. Just a quick note to follow us on Twitter at Mining Suppliers and LinkedIn. And subscribe to our YouTube channel to get the latest and past episodes of The Dig. What if you had a great product, but you just can't close a deal with a mining company because they want to see it working somewhere else, and they won't let you trial it in their own operation? So what do? You're kind of stuck. But what if there is a place where you can test your concept and show it in a live environment safely to a prospective client? Well, there is. It's called Norcat. And who better to speak to us about this innovative platform but Don Duval, CEO of Norcat. So let's dig in right now. Hi, Don. Welcome to The Dig.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, it's. I think this is actually the first time we've actually had you on, so I'm pretty excited about that.
It is, yeah. No, I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah. So before we dig into it, if you will, give us a little overview. Give us a little introduction to what Norcat is.
Yeah. So first of all, Norcat's been in business for just over 25 years now. Hard to believe. And really, we aspire to do two things. One, we seek to be the global leader in all that is skilled labor training and development for the mining industry. And then concurrent to that, we aspire to be that global one-stop shop for all that is the future of mining technology and innovation. And both of those priorities are rooted in kind of a uniqueness to us that we are very proud to advocate and promote. But we're the only training and development organization, while concurrently being the only innovation center in the world that actually owns and operates an underground mine that is used in part for experiential hands-on training to prepare that would-be or existing generation of miners on the relevant skills to do their jobs, productively and effectively and safely. But also we use a portion of that underground mine as a place for tech companies, be they big or small, domestic, international, to do development testing, and then ultimately showcasing demonstration work of emerging technologies that they believe are poised to transform the industry. So, we quite proudly anchor a very vibrant, human capital and technology ecosystem for mining right here in Sudbury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so, and that's really, I think, that's the vision of Norcal, right? Is really kind of bringing those two. You're in such a unique situation. Of course, like you say, you're in a world-class mining hub or cluster, if you will. And so it's just it's a great fit. Yeah. So if from a supplier's point of view, that's kind of the angle I wanted to take today was, what is it that you say? I've got a widget. Okay, we'll go with that simple example. Say I've got a widget and I want to demonstrate at Norcal. What would I do here?
Well, yeah, let me give you some context. Why suppliers, why service companies, why tech companies, why should they care about Norcat? What value do we have to actually address some of their needs? And the answer to that question actually was rooted in a survey that we did, my goodness, coming on 8 years now, where we had a hypothesis that we wanted to test as to essentially asking the question, does the mining industry have an innovation problem? And inherent in that, we asked both the tech companies, which we call the builders of innovation, and then we asked a series of questions to the buyers of innovation, which we define as the mining companies, trying to get to the root of this. I don't know, there was always these anecdotal conversations you remember around, mining, it's got an innovation challenge. They don't think about innovation. And what we discovered is, quite the opposite. It's not an innovation problem, but it's really rooted in a broader, I'll call it technology adoption problem. And, with that, in some of the questions we asked, it came to pass that, when asking a tech company or a supply service company, what's the challenge of getting your product adopted by the mining industry? Because it's not an innovation problem, it's a technology adoption problem.
Right.
And the answer is interesting, came back both the same on the buy side as the build side, where, these tech companies face challenges around, they get asked by the mining companies, where do you have it installed? Can we come look at it just to validate that it's real and that it achieves the results that you're claiming in an operating mine environment, not a gymnasium, not a laboratory, not a football field.
Right.
And so what we discovered is this notion of getting tech companies the ability to expedite the adoption and procurement, deployment of their tech and mining. They need to have reference customers. And inherent in that, it's very difficult, we learned, especially for the small venture-backed, angel-backed, medium-sized enterprises. It's very difficult for them to call up a large-scale production mine and say, hey, I have got the best new widget. If I can just come in, if you can pause on production, let me have some of your team, let me go underground, let me go in service, let me show you how it's going to work. Well, imagine that multiplied by multiple inquiries a day for a mining company. And all of a sudden you see missed opportunity. So why mining, tech companies and mining supply service companies should care about us is that for many of them, we solve that first reference customer problem. We provide an operating mine environment that's referenceable, that enables them to, if they're doing R&D development work or testing work, sure, we can apportion part of the underground mine to enable that activity to occur. But once the intellectual property has been kind of finalized or protected or whatever it is, by default, now we become an extension of their business development, sales, and marketing arm. So many of these tech companies will install and or demonstrate their technology in our facility to build the narrative that they have a reference customer. They will, in the spirit of sales and marketing, invite prospective mining companies to come see it, touch it, see it in the operating mine environment to de-risk the operational concerns that a would-be buyer might have in that technology. And it kind of builds this vibrant, I'll call it ecosystem, but what I described to you, multiply that by a whole array of different tech companies, and you start to get this really interesting, underground and surface operating mine where the buyers can come and walk the proverbial underground hallways and see all these emerging technologies. And they've been somewhat independently validated because they're in the operating mine. So you kind of get that added comfort as a would-be buyer that you can, again, see it, touch it, feel it in an operating mine environment. So the mining supply service ecosystem, even for medium-sized companies that have a new product, that already have relationships, getting that tested and validated in a large-scale producing mine is difficult. For an angel or venture-backed company that's just searching for their very first reference customer, it's very difficult to do that. So in the spirit of the mining industry having a technology adoption problem, we solve one of the major challenges in the adoption pathway by providing a referenceable operating mine that almost operates more like an active laboratory than an underground mine, but it still is an operating mine. We drill, blast muck, we have an offtake agreement, we sell the ore, we make money off of it, we adhere to all the regulatory provisions. So it's kind of a unique asset. And with that, we want to exploit and celebrate this uniqueness to really help the global mining industry from the tech ecosystem perspective.
Right. And that's
a long-winded answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's perfect because it's building that. You're building the trust. That's really, really huge, because I think a lot of people that have their first lens into the industry are they scratch their head about why. And it's an industry that just inherently has a lot of risk in it, or uncertainty. I'll call it that. It's variability in its information, and it starts right from that first blast, right?
Well,
so
yeah, and the interesting comment to that I would make is that I believe the mining industry is one of the riskiest industries out there. And the caveat to that, to be clear, is that you invest sometimes billions of dollars based on some geological drill holes that presume there to be a quality of ore body that the core samples reveal. You spend all this time and money and infrastructure. So that's a risky endeavor. You got to be pretty sure. But where the mining industry is not risky as it pertains to the procurement, adoption, and deployment of technologies to enhance the productivity and safety of the operating mine. With that, you can see the importance of our role to help these technologies get de-risked, validated in an operating mine environment. That's the type of comfort that we see these would-be buyers wanting in our facility.
Right. Excellent. Got a bit of chatter there. So let's talk about, because the focus has been, it's an underground operating mine. So that seems to be really the focus of a lot of, if you were to demonstrate a product to a potential client, but you do have surface on top. There are some surface demonstrations going on as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so a couple of great examples of clients that we either have or ones in the pipeline that we're hoping to have. Obviously, the most well-known client that we have, at least on surface operations, is Bort Longyear. So Bort Longyear has two global technology development and innovation centers. I think that's the brand that they apply to them. They have one in a warm weather climate that they have in Australia, and then one for cold weather climate, which is at our facility. And they do an array of I'll say projects. Now, we're not necessarily privy to all the nuances, nor do we need to be, but they use our facility to do a whole array of technology development, testing, demonstration projects on new drilling technology, core analysis technology, both from drill holes on surface and underground. So they would be kind of a unique kind of flagship, tenant client, technology company that uses both surface and underground operations. Where we've seen a lot of interesting pipeline development, especially in the last, I'm going to say 6 months to a year, with a push on ESG, alternative energy, battery electric vehicles. But on surface, we've seen alternative forms of energy generation, so solar, photovoltaic, wind. We've even seen a really interesting one developed in Northern Ontario that's using kind of a very highly efficient wood pellet burning, I'll call it, generators that not only generate heat for airflow, but also can generate boil water, generate steam, kind of bit of a turbine using kind of the natural elements, and very, very efficient. I'll call it generators or engines, if you will. So there's a lot of activity that is happening on surface now, way more so than was 18, 24 months ago.
Right, especially that infrastructure component piece to it, or energy, I guess, delivery.
Yeah.
Would you? I guess the one part is you would go right up to your ramp access, right? So it's right up to, say, a cage, kind of anything to do with technology, right up to the lifting the ore. I guess that would be the best way to that's kind of.
Yeah, essentially it's what we define as the mining cycle. So we have a lot of exploration technology companies, a lot that would be associated with drill, blast, muck, and essentially our value add to the whole mining supply, ecosystem ends when that ore body has been, extracted from the mine and resides, in our case, on surface, and then it is picked up for downstream beneficiation and processing. We don't play there from a asset offering, meaning we don't have test facilities for that downstream process. But, in the underground facility, to complement the Bort as an example, at any given point, we have, 20 to 30 clients doing various projects. Some of them are long-standing demonstration projects where it's a commercialized product and they just want to demonstrate it. Others relate to, they come in for a day, they want to rent, a dedicated heading, they want to do a new blasting sequence or new technology, or others want to affix our IoT devices to gather telemetry data for preventative maintenance and test it on a Nokia's LTE backbone compared to Cisco's Wi-Fi backbone. So it has a ton of flexibility to mix and match. And our job is, in the spirit of an active laboratory, we're just the place. We provide all the resources, infrastructure, tools, programmatic support as needed to enable these companies to come in, define the project, ensure that we have the right stuff to support them in achieving their goals, bringing would-be buyers. So we bring in mining delegations. The last 3 years, save for this year, we bring in over 50 a year, so almost one a week. Wow. A mining company. Well, you've even helped us bring some in, right? So, but you can appreciate, you create this ecosystem, bringing together buyers and builders. So, our growth in tech companies using the facility informs where we make our investments to make the, active laboratory a little bit more sophisticated. Each year we add more and more stuff because of the emerging trends in tech. And we need to do that to kind of stay ahead of the curve to enable the materiality of activity, which is an important driver, because ultimately things will come out of that are very successful, meaning the tech company gets another purchase order or their first purchase order, or a delegation from a mining company looking to get smart on, teleremote autonomous vehicle systems can look at the hardline system and understand that's how it works, and see how it works on LTE versus Wi-Fi or whatever it might be. Day one is never like day two. If it comes across in my description, it is an underground operating mine, but at times it more aptly runs like a bit like a laboratory where every day is a different experiment in some respects.
Right. There must be some exciting, I'll call it collaboration, where you see groups, with similar or complementary technologies kind of seeing each other and going, hey, we could do something here. Have you, do you see that? Or
Countless opportunities, and inherent in that question, your viewers also might reflect going, well, what if I'm a tech company and I'm working on pre-protected intellectual property development? So we have a pretty rigorous process now that, if a client is coming in and is seeking to do some, I'll call it development testing work on a new unprotected product, just to validate if it works before they go down the entire pathway of patenting or whatever they might do from an IP strategy perspective. There's a rigorous process where they kind of reveal that to us, and then we will actually apportion part of the mine to be protected. Only them will ensure that there's no competitors on site during that tenure, and we manage that real problem or potential problem very well. That said, when it becomes more of it's protected, it's commercialized, now they're just looking for brand and sales and business development. We connect all those partners all the time, because you have those kind of serendipitous collisions where, hey, this is what I'm working on. Oh, that's what I'm working on. Let me make some introductions to a few customers that we're looking at, or vice versa. And you start to get these really unique collaborations. So yeah, that's kind of what we're aspiring to do. Again, going back to that, helping anchor a vibrant technology and innovation ecosystem. You need those connections, and you need the materiality, and you need both the buyers and the builders to care about what we're doing. And quite proudly, it's been pretty amazing growth over the last 7 years.
Yeah, it has been. I didn't even consider the fact that you have your own virtual Area 51, if you will. So, and speaking about the growth and the development of what you've done in the recent time, you just recently came out with some news with another strategic collaboration with Ernst & Young. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so far it's a new relationship, but it's been great to date. We just announced it a few weeks ago, and your viewers may be familiar with EY, one of the world's leading professional services providers, tax, accounting, and consulting. And they have worked to develop and deploy a mining and metals center of excellence, and we're working with the one that is focused on the Americas, so North and South America. And they, in the spirit of a center of excellence, they are looking to be kind of on trend with the latest and greatest emerging technologies, human capital trends, all of the kind of key things that not only their portfolio of mining companies and mining supply service companies are caring about, but they're looking to have a strong point of view and opinion on all the emerging trends in mining. And with that information, they can then offer more insight and support to their vast roster of clients in the mining space around the world. But further to that, you can envision, scenarios where they're working with some of their mining companies and building and supporting them in the development of technology roadmaps and innovation priorities and transformational change, and all the key things that a leading professional service firm such as EY would offer to their clients. But now with the partnership of Norcat, and where we get very excited, how interesting is it that in those discussions, one of the potential outcomes could be, based on your innovation roadmap, said client, why don't we travel and bring you to the Norcat Underground Center, and let's actually see some of these emerging technologies in action, again, in the spirit of de-risking them to potentially enhance a procurement, adoption, deployment discussion. Now we have this unique partnership where you can leverage the center of excellence through EY and their relationships. And now there's a value add element where they can actually bring clients to potentially get business done, to meet these interesting, innovative and tech companies that could stitch into some of these innovation priorities. So that is a really exciting piece, and just one example. Another one that's probably equally as exciting, I won't say more exciting, just to be mindful of prioritizing them, but inherent in the technology deployment, EY has a very sophisticated change management, part of their business. And the mining industry in Canada is going to need over 100,000 new workers over the next 10 years. And the skills and competencies in those workers are evolving at an unprecedented rate because of the adoption of new technologies and support services required by the mining companies as they invest more and more. So we now have a unique opportunity with EY to really understand some of the human capital, trends in mining as they are influenced by the technology transformation. And we have an opportunity to now build a whole array of skilled labor training and development short programs to address the skills gaps that we're seeing in some of the mining companies as they relate to the deployment and adoption of new technologies. So just two examples, there's about half a dozen more that we're working on, but as you can tell, we're very excited to be working with EY on a variety of initiatives that align to their center of excellence and align to our aspirational priorities as an organization.
Right. And I can see the natural synergy there. So yeah, exciting times ahead for you, I'm sure. So
absolutely.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we have missed. I think you've done a really good job of explaining. If I was a supplier with a product, I would, or a service even, it would be interesting. How would they reach out to Norcat here?
Yeah, well, they can reach out to me direct, of course. I'm readily accessible and love talking with prospective clients around what they're looking to do. Or they can visit the Norcat website, and there's directions to the Underground Center, and we have a dedicated resource that looks after all relationships with companies looking to develop, test, and or demonstrate emerging technology. So yeah, we'd love to have discussions. Obviously, I love talking about this topic, of course, but yeah, anything we could do to help, it directly supports our mandate.
Excellent. And you have a beautiful brand new building as well, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. We've kind of unofficially cut the ribbon. We want to do something a little bit more grandiose when the provisions enable us to do so. So, stay tuned. Hopefully by the fall, we'll be able to have, people physically on site to do something a little more ceremonial, if you will. But yeah, I know we've opened up the building a few months ago. We have a handful of residents who are doing so much activity related to development, testing, demonstration that it warranted them to make a decision to have an office there. But part of the rationale for this, what we're calling the Norcat Clubhouse at the Underground Center, is our demand far exceeded our capacity to serve, but it wasn't constrained by the workings of the underground mine. We have 9 active headings. We have all the appropriate ventilation, electrical, heating. That facility works well. Our main constraint was on surface. So you can envision, a buyer and a builder going underground, looking at a system, getting smart about it, and then wanting to kind of retreat to a facility to try to get business done. We had a very small collection of trailers. We were constrained in terms of number of drives. We just had a series of constraints on surface. So what we opted to do is build this beautiful near 15,000 square foot innovation and learning and development pavilion. And it's made a huge difference. So now we have a place where there's meeting rooms, kitchenette, enough drives to satisfy all the customers. And it's been huge. So we're very proud of it.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to that time when the ribbon cutting's there. I want to be there for that. So hopefully I can make it. So I look forward to that.
Yeah,
so,
well, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, I guess we'll close it off right there, Don. We could speak forever, I'm sure. It's been a real pleasure having you on the dig, and look forward to more exciting news coming out of Norcat.
Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. Take care.
Cheers. Now it's time for 6 and 60. Let's take a look at some of the biggest stories affecting the mining industry today. According to S&P Global Market Intelligence, copper prices rose to a record high in May due to rampant investor sentiment, supply tightness, and a global economic recovery. And also, S&P Global said deals in the precious metals space accounted for 4 of the top 5 metals and mining transactions during the week ending May 14th. BMO Capital Markets analyst Colin Hamilton said the closest comparison for the surging commodity prices in 2021 was the 2006 cycle, which saw metal prices soar. Some investors suggested BHP does not go forward with the Jensen project due to the expected oversupply of potash in the next decade. The Supreme Court of BC approved Evolution Mining's takeover for Battle North Gold for $343 million. And finally, Skeena Resources closed a bought deal offering of $57.5 million that will be used to advance Eskay Creek and Snip Gold projects in BC. And that is your 6 and 60. That's it for this week's episode. I'd like to thank our guest, Don Duval. You can follow us on Twitter at Mining Suppliers and LinkedIn, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to get instant access to the latest episode of The Dig. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, I'm Ryan McEachran. Take care and stay safe.